So today we are going to be talking about seed collection and how we go about seed collection, both here at the campus at the Arboretum, and our other methods for seed collection out in the field. And that all kind of connects back into how we go about growing our plants, which is seed collection and then seed sowing. We are fortunate enough today while we're standing here. This is our first like really cold, good day. We've been kind of getting these spells of warm weather, so that all relates to when we can go about seed collection, when seed is most ready, most mature. That varies between different species, but our big thing now when we're talking about seed treatment, we can collect. I've been collecting for the nursery since spring, but there's a lot of species that we collect that have to go through a process called cold stratification. So we have, plants like some of our, say, milkweeds, for example. We can collect when they are mature, which is in early summer, or I'm sorry, early fall. But they will require a period of cold weather to break the seeds dormancy and have them properly germinate in the spring. So that's some of our seeds, right? They need that cold period, and we can create that length of cold by having them outdoors. Potentially, we store the seed in a fridge or a freezer. But going back to our cold temperature we're in right now, some seeds don't require that at all. And so what we have to do is properly time the collection and the sowing so that we don't sow a flat and they germinate right now. So, in November, we could have easily had some trays, some seed flats germinate because of the warm weather that we had. So we're able to now plant a lot of stuff and sow seeds that are that don't require any cold and could be easily germinating in these warm little snaps that we get, which would be to their detriment if they were to germinate, be young, and then go through the winter in that cold freeze. So we actually will go out and typically we use just regular either paper bags or like Ziploc, regular sandwich bags, depending on the quantity of seed. It all depends, but really we go out and we will, depending on the species, either clip back sections of the plant with mature seed, or I'm looking around me right now. There's a ton of little blue stem, and that's one of the easiest plants to get the seed from. You just kind of pull up the stem and are able to collect it. So it's a lot of hand collecting, putting it in bags, and then storing it properly. We kind of go with two methods here. One is we will actually sow the flats into soil so that they're really in soil for all of winter. They're exposed to our cold period through the winter, and that is a lot of species will respond really well to that. They prefer that method of just straight sowing. And then others will actually hold in the bag that we collected them in, and we'll hold them in in the refrigerator around 32 degrees or so, and we'll let them have kind of this artificial cold that'll go through, and then we can sow in the spring when the temperatures warm down, and they'll germinate a couple weeks later. It just depends on the species. Some really prefer that straight sow method. They like the kind of variation in temperatures through the winter, warmer days, colder nights, and then others will prefer and can tolerate just having that steady cold. It really all depends, and it helps with storage and the space that we use to kind of be able to split the two. We collect the seeds, and again, we may store in the fridge, and that's pretty easy, right? We take the seeds, we keep it in those cool temperatures, and then in the spring, we're going to do exactly what we do if we straight sow. So that looks like, collect the seed, and then what we'll do is take a tray. Usually, what we do here is a 50 cell tray that we'll see in a bit, and we'll fill that with soil, and then we actually take the seeds in each individual cell out of the 50. We'll put that seed into, and then that will, eventually will germinate and become a plug, and then we'll get bumped up into a potted plant. So it's really the name of the game is getting that seed into soil, whether it be right away or later on when we get warmer weather. So the off season actually is really the most kind of it's really the most miles traveled. We're going out and collecting seed. That's the primary thing we're doing. So a lot of material from the growing season will be overwintered. So if we have plants left over, things that aren't sellable, in the summer months we're going to overwinter. That's a small portion of what we're doing. The big thing is really that this seed collection process, and this gets us gives us the opportunity to go to all different kinds of locations to get material. So that's this is when it feels like we're doing the most amount of work, surprisingly. So it's the off season, right? But there's plenty to do. So and it all revolves around getting these seeds. So, and we're right now, so we're in middle of November, and we have 100+ species of seed already collected. So, and there's so much more to get. All right, so here we have Zach and Lex both going through the process of filling trays with soil, and then we will actually sow the seed. So you can see Zach here is taking the seed that we just collected, the rattlesnake master, and he will in each cell on the 50 cell flat there, he'll put a seed or two in each cell, and then cover it with soil, and then we will store that with the rest of our trays, and then in the springtime this will germinate and be a happy and healthy plant. So this is the start. This is how we get the seed into the soil and let it go through its winter kind of dormant period, and then it will grow, and each one of those cells will be a little seedling and come spring. So a lot of this green material we're looking at here, this is flats from that were sown last winter that germinated and grew in during the growing season, and we're just overwintering until next spring, when we will bump them up into pots for selling. This lighter color soil, this is all the trays that we've done today. So the stuff that we collected, these are just trays from today. They'll get watered and they'll match the rest of these darker colored flats that are much more saturated. So again, all this stuff is 1-year-old trays that we've been slowly pulling from. And then this all here, this whole row is this year's seed that was collected and sown. So not too much happening yet, but they will all be full of plants by next spring. So some things like our mountain mint and monarda, they'll have germination, but for the most part, these are just waiting to go through their respective cold period.
So I started working here in the beginning of this fall semester. I met Sam actually over the summer, and I inquired about a job with him because I thought I really wanted to expand my knowledge of just general seed collection and just general plant propagation. And yeah, that's kind of how it started.
I've had some interest in public horticulture, but I never have worked at a nursery or even in a plant shop. So just being here, getting to experience all aspects of that, and really just learning something new, getting to hone in on my skills that I learned in class, from propagation to identification. Yeah.
Well, I would say I really get to work on my plant propagation and my plant identification. As someone who really enjoys plant identification, I get to see the differences in different species that are also in the same genus. I get to see how they're related and their differences, and the different seeds and their different growing habits. And it just really helps with identification and seeing how things grow.
I think getting to learn more what seeds look. I've seen seeds of plants that I've never seen before, but I know the plant. So just getting to see things that for the first time is really cool. Getting to learn seed identification, which isn't something that we typically go over in classes. That's been pretty neat. And then just learning like different propagation methods. I think this is an experience that doesn't come too often. I mean, if you even like go to work in a nursery, you might be stuck with tagging or sowing. You don't really get to do everything, whereas here you get to try out everything.
I think first off, I think this will really help just in general, just for my general passion for plants. I love growing plants, and I love everything about it. So I think this will just really help me with just general growing and gardening at home. But also, I think for what I want to do in the future is owning pieces of land and having a horticultural sanctuary for people to come and to enjoy. And I think this will really help me and just like growing for friends, for family, but also for the land that I possibly own in the future.
After I graduate, I see myself in the public horticulture realm. I think I'd like to own my own business, sell my own plants, but for now, I just really getting experience. Just really getting to have some real world practice without actually going into the real world has been really nice and really helpful. It's kind of like a good way to wrap up everything that I've learned and putting it into practice.
One part that I like to expose anyone who's involved with this is I think when you have a general interest in plants, when you're interested in the certainly the plants that you're collecting from, if you know them as a flowering plant, say you love an Amsonia because of the appearance, the flowering period, the foliage, all the reasons you'd love it in your garden. This is a new way of learning the plant and a characteristic of the plant that you otherwise might not be so familiar with. And what's really kind of neat about it is it's much more tangible. You're really interacting with the plant. Maybe you're fortunate enough to like smell the flowers and get an up close look, but this is something where you break the seed open, or the seed pod in this case open, right, and then see the seed, and it's just a kind of really cool hands-on opportunity that you get with plants that again you may not otherwise have when it's just say flowering. So some plants we can actually collect in the growing season. So for example, there are some grasses or even say something like Pacra, for example. We sowed Pacra. It's a very early season flower. It's a early spring flower, and then by the early summer you have mature seed heads. We're able to collect that seed head and sow it, and because it doesn't require any of the cold stratification that I just described, that will germinate in two weeks or so after we sow it, and now by July you have a plug, and so you can grow that plug out, and by the end of that summer you can have actually a plant that's sellable. So that's within the same year of it growing. That's a small kind of section of what we sow is able to do that. So most things we collect in the winter, and then will be sellable later that summer. So a small subsection though is really neat that you can collect in the growing season, sow it, and it's actually able to be sold in the late season, in the late summer. Like I previously mentioned, some plants were able to collect seed during the growing season. So this is prairie brome, Bromus calmii, and this was collected in early July. And by the middle of July, after we collected the seed and sowed into flats, we had a whole tray of germinated seedlings, right? So this is now in November, and this tray is ready to go. These could easily be bumped up into pots to be sold, or they can be plugged into the ground for a planting. But again, these are perfectly viable, happy, healthy plants, and we're in the season that we collected them from. So just one of those examples where it doesn't need any cold period, and is a happy, healthy, strong plant in just one season. So same season it was collected in. We had a great first year. We started off, our first sale was in September, and so next year we're going to be opening up for our first sale in late May. So we're going to actually be able to sell for the spring season. And for folks who came out to the nursery this year, I'm super excited just to announce all the new plants that we're going to be able to offer. That's going to be just a much larger selection than we had last season, and we had a lot of good stuff last season. So I'm really excited for all the new species we're going to introduce, and we'll slowly be kind of announcing those through the winter as we kind of sow. And so please do subscribe to the email, or get on our email list through the Arboretum, and you'll be notified on all that good stuff. But that's the big thing I'm most excited about. All the plants that you love that we were able to offer last season will be available, but again, we're going to be adding on so much more. So that's the big thing, I would say. Just a bigger and better selection.